Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we finished off Caius Thorn's quest and essentially just dealt with the Void Rippers. And we're gonna fight for the Ordos. What do we got? What are these? Assassination. Okay, that's doable. Yep, Nurgle infestation, so just bonk Nurgle. Rescue, nope. Hunt, doable, that's a lot of debuffs though. And then that's a hunt. Oh yeah, same crown. I was gonna say, why does that one have a crown and this one doesn't? But they do. What are we feeling? You were getting close for Ordo Malleus. These missions kinda suck. We're getting close for Ordo Hereticus, which would be nice. Yeah, let's just start bonking out some Ordo Hereticus runs. Doubles a group of supporting enemies. Oh no, what will my laser beam do? What can we do that's totally gonna screw me over? I'm stupid and like challenging myself. Really? That's all that did? 1 point? Okay, so that's 6. Yeah, I guess it's 6 no matter how I spin it. I guess influence isn't really worth it because you don't get influence. Don't really care about glory. Let's go crafting items, or crafting materials. And then... yeah, we'll go XP boost, because why not? Actually, no, we're not going to do XP boost. We'll go Void Shards.
Priority targets identified in teleportarium range. Decoded Vox transmissions and auger scans indicate high importance and limited combat capabilities. Neutralizing the targets offers significant long-term benefits.
Okay, so these guys go down pretty easy. Not insta-downs, but still... it's not like before. I don't know what it was. I really don't... was it because they were just getting good defense rolls? Because... a while back, I was just getting stomped. God. I love the bonuses to hordes. This is just goofy. That is how it should feel fighting the Imperial Guard at any point. Just a horde of guys and las guns. I saw footage for the PS5 upgrade for this game, and I've said it before, if you don't have the game, you might as well buy the next gen upgrade because it includes everything. And it's not bad, but if you already have the game, it's not worth it, because the big things I saw were, instead of buildings just disappearing into ash, they blast apart. And I was just sitting there looking at it thinking, I don't care if the building explodes into rocks. I'm here to shoot lasers and get loot. Everything else is just unnecessary. It feels like an attempt to justify reselling the game. Which I get. You need money. I imagine that King Arthur game didn't sell too well, because dark fantasy take on Arthurian legend, you're already kind of going for a very niche group, especially when it's pseudo XCOM. There's a lot of fans of XCOM, I'm one of them, but there's been a lot of XCOM style games that have just been absolute butt cheeks, so it's hard to really sell some of us on a new XCOM style strategy game. And admittedly, that descriptor has been used so heavily that any turn-based strategy game, usually journalists will kind of be hacks about it and go, oh, it's a XCOM style game. No, it's just turn-based strategy. Battle Sector. I've seen people say, oh, it's like XCOM. No, it's turn-based strategy. That's all it is. Because you move on a tile system does not inherently make something XCOM. OG XCOM didn't have you move on at least as much on a tile system. Admittedly, I miss OG XCOM. That was always fun. You'd get a transport full of like 20 dudes, slap power armor on them, make one guy Rocket Man. He just kicks open the door, just starts launching rockets at anybody he sees. He dies, next guy just takes the launcher, he becomes Rocket Man. You just human wave tactic the aliens. Xenonauts lets you do that, which is cool. Still waiting on Xenonauts 2, though. That was one thing that kind of bummed me with Phoenix Point, was they started to kind of go in that classic XCOM route of, hey, just human wave tactics the hell out of these guys. But then they kind of walked it back a bit, which is disappointing. Because that's what I want. I want to be able to just fight hordes of enemies for some objective with just my own horde of stupid soldiers and actually sustain casualties. I get, to a degree, it's skill-based. If you're good, you won't sustain casualties. But I kind of like when sometimes, you know, your rookies get nuked. It sucks, but it happens. Sometimes you gotta plant a block of C4 on the hull of the alien ship to find an entrance, and your rookie gets caught in the blast. Unfortunate, but it happens. Because at the same time, sometimes those rookies go on to just ball out of control, saving the team by YOLO rolling into the enemy and just shotgunning some mind-controlling alien right in the noodle. We don't get that as much when you only have 6-8 guys. Admittedly, Phoenix Point, love the game. The DLCs were awful. Whoever sat down and went, oh yeah, so we're gonna have honestly, the Chaos Engines DLC, because this is the one I have biggest contention with. Whoever thought that was a good one was not thinking. Hey, what if we give them really strong weapons, but there's a chance they just break? No reason, just every shot rolls on a table, and these things are really expensive to buy, and you have to go buy them. Or, hey, you can heavily customize the vehicles, but it's more Mad Max than actual modifications that make sense. it would have been cool if there... What I would have done, admittedly, is I would have made it so the Mad Max stuff is an early game tech you can get that's... Let's just call it salvage initiatives, where you can unlock these very crude vehicle modifications, and they work, they're just not the greatest. Oh, heavy armor, you're going to take less damage and have more armor points, but you're going to move slow. You can get new Jericho armor eventually that's more efficient and doesn't have as big as speed penalties, but until then, you can either run the cheap but working Mad Max style stuff, the salvage initiative armor, or you can even research just Phoenix Point stuff. Or Nether game. Absolute shout out, Terra Invicta. Absolute nightmare of a game to play if you don't know what you're doing. But it is cool. Even though it is essentially kind of like Phoenix Point in the sense of, hey, there's multiple factions all trying to deal with the aliens, whether you work together or fall to infighting is up to you. But man, they feel so much more interesting. I would love an XCOM game or Phoenix Point-ish XCOM where you can have minor factions come into play. I think of Enemy Within, how there was the Advent. I'd love for suddenly to hear, oh, well, these guys appeared, and you're dealing with a group like Advent. Oh, after a number of invasions or a number of raids, the aliens have set up a little colony, or a little colony of people have appeared who seem to be working with the aliens. Turns out they're mind-controlled. You have other groups that want to work with the aliens who are more supplicants. You have hardcore guerrilla fighters, stuff like that, who want to fight against the aliens and are willing to launch nukes. It'd be cool to have actual, like Terra Invicta does, where it can cause massive damage if the guerrilla group gets their hands on nukes. Because if they think you work with the aliens, or if the aliens are somewhere, they'll just say screw it and fire one off. And that is so hardcore, and I love it. Ah, that was a bunch of crap. Let's mulch it and jump back in. Reflect heat damage, oh that's gonna suck. Inoculator usage is disabled. Oh, that's, Can we not do that one? Cool. Right back at the same map.
And being observed.
Yeah, this is the exact same map.
Are thrice encrypted and set to optimal flow. Good hunting.
But another thing I would like is for an XCOM style game to have enemies that, depending on the game, will use different tactics. They might launch pods that create something like the Lost, so you have zombies that'll show up. Or they could nuke, and suddenly some of your maps require teams with radiation-proof gear or radiation-resistant gear. That may have an effect. Radiation might cause longer recoup times. It might make certain wounds worse. There's a lot you could do that would make every encounter very interesting. The same thing for UFO, down to UFOs. I would love for different complications to arise. Oh, this ship, you know, depending on the time you take, other factions could investigate it. So you might meet up and have, let's say you have that guerrilla group. You might be trying to actually salvage some of the tech, and the guerrilla group, it might be a number of different guerrilla groups, and one might just be like, no, we're not using alien tech at all. And you get into a gunfight with them, while the aliens are all just kind of vibing, taking pot shots at everyone. You could have an instance where there's a reactor leak, depending on how well you scout beforehand, because you might need to send UAVs or something, or have certain satellites up. And if you detect it, you can go in beforehand and say, hey, we need to re-equip our guys with hazmat gear. And if you don't, then you would go in and either start taking periodic damage, or you would get like a heavily irradiated status, depending on the reactor and all this stuff, which might affect recovery times and can either lead to a death of a character, or it requires just a lot of time and resources to recover those characters. Because a big thing, like I said, is just having volume of troops. I think it's cool, but I get real tired of hero squads. Because ask any XCOM player, especially the streamers, they'll say the same thing. If your A team dies and you're far enough in, you might as well just restart the game, restart the run, restart the game entirely, because you've lost. There is no recovery, there's no way to rebound because the difficulty is scaling, and it doesn't scale back on your losses. And that's such a problem, because then it sucks. Or if you're going to make it so you can have full-on hero squads, then you need to have recruitment change. Because I know the current system for like XCOM 2 was you just got a guy
Desired variable removed.
and it's like, oh hey, he's a rookie. It'd be cool if you could have the pool take longer to refresh, but you can crank up the level, so it could take you, early game it could take you months or even a year, depending on how the time frame goes, but it could take you potentially months to refresh, but you could get max level characters. But you're gambling on the guys you have then and there are the guys you need to keep alive. And of course, how the games always work, which is another little point of contention I have, is ballistic weapons lose value. And I've always thought that's the goofiest thing. Because, let's be real, E.T. may have his shields, but 12 gauge or 10 gauge to the sternum is still going to send E.T. flying. Unless those shields are absolutely perfect. And if they are some fancy ballistic stopping shields, that's what energy weapons should be for. They should be shield breakers. And that would be an interesting element. Do you research and develop EMP grenades to drop shields? Do you divide your squad up? Or do you just go full ballistic and you just rattle these dudes? You have a ton of recruits with M60s and you just firing squad ET the second he pokes his head out of the crashed UFO. Personally, I'd love to see that. I would love just to watch a ton of dudes just line up mag dumping into an alien. It'd be good. I think, honestly, the XCOM-ish genre needs a bit of a revitalization. It needs new ideas. It needs some new stuff injected into it. I also want an event that's just called Bag of Hammers, where one crashed UFO is you recover it without having to fight, and the whole joke is, because it's from, the whole idea is it's from a tweet I saw, and I know Oompaville made the joke too, that if aliens landed on Earth, chances are some redneck, or the tweet was like, me and my friends would just beat the alien to death with hammers. And I'd love that to be a random event of just like, yeah, turns out the civilians just bludgeon the aliens before we could get there. So we'll just count it as a win. And honestly, there are places on Earth I can guarantee that would happen. Have some aliens crash land in the middle of a cartel war. Chances are those aliens would never be found. They'd just get dissolved into a vat of acid. It's funny because it's also horrific and actually happened to hundreds of people. God, it's so wild to think people have done that for the cartels. But yeah, I'd love for a really in-depth XCOM game. I know there was the Grey Knights one that came out. Because I was about to say I wish there was a XCOM 40K game, but honestly, that Grey Knights one, it was okay. It was definitely not that great. Even the ending, when people were like, oh man, there's spoilers. You fight Mortarion, and Kaldor Drago shows up. If you know 40K lore, none of this is a surprise. I know I'd complain because one of the YouTubers I watched who played through it knew nothing about 40K, so when he saw Mortarion, he just goes, oh, big guy. I was like, oh, so this means nothing to you. Cool. I love when the weight of a situation is completely lost on someone. But at the same time, it's, if you know it, it's so predictable that it's disappointing unto itself. Because it's cool, you know, Kaldor Drago. Dude travels the warp busting demon ass all the time. Simply because he's too hardcore to die. But he always shows up. It would be like if they did one for Space Marines, and then you had a super difficult end mission, and Legion of the Damned showed up. It's cool, you know, it's Legion of the Damned. Everybody loves Legion of the Damned. But it's kind of predictable. Because chances are, in 40K, if something is going wrong, you're either all dying, or Legion of the Damned is showing up. There is no third option. Admittedly, there's sub-options when it comes to the everyone's dying bit, whether it's by the hands of the enemies, the Empire, or the Inquisition. That's something too, now that I think about it, just Inquisitors and just nuking planets. the odds of actual heresy seem really high, because all you have to do, if you really wanted to be a heretical Inquisitor, if you have the influence to get a chaos cult started somewhere, get it started on a planet you want to nuke. Oh, this Forge world, it's tainted by chaos. See, cult, nuke. You just make sure that it's established well enough that it can't easily be expunged. And then when questioned, you say, yep, couldn't save the place. Lost cause. Planet went bye-bye. And admittedly, that is very reductive, but that's essentially all you have to do. Just lie. And especially with how the Inquisition is so onto just scrubbing evidence. You could easily scrub stuff, or just because it's so heavily bureaucratic, it could take centuries just to find the right documentation to prove you were a heretic. And if anybody accuses you of something, accuse them back. That's the inquisitorial way. Only a heretic would accuse me of being a heretic. Are you a heretic? Ah, the Inquisition's a joke, and it's full of clowns. None of that was worth it either. Oh well. These will pay out eventually. Not the rewards will remain crap for eternity. But, eventually we will get the best stores possible. I mean, look at this already. You can buy Archaeotech blueprints, which might be worth actually just buying a few. And, I mean, it is 400 grand. That's really steep. I'd have to just start doing credit runs. But it is a possibility. And then just building them out. It sucks having to use the purple. Can't remember the currency. It's not glory, it's... I'm just gonna call it purple. I mean, it's purple, pink. It's more pink, but I'm not calling it that. It's a thing. But these guys, look at this. We can, I mean, they're kind of meh, but we can eventually get some cool stuff. Hopefully. Maybe, I don't know, I can't guarantee anything. But it will get better every time we upgrade this. Reduce the cost of purchases, that'll be worth it. Bonus damage, cost of purchases, which will make buying those blueprints cheaper. And killing demons, you know, it's all worthwhile. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.